Hello and welcome to the Smart Money Simplified podcast with your host, Brent Mekosh. Brent, been a while. Good to see you again. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing okay, but I will say this. I'm in a lot of pain today, Bill. I was at a kid's birthday party yesterday and I was on
It
roller
sounds like the kids
skates.
jumped you.
No, I was roller skating, like in the old school, like roller
Oh,
derby,
yes.
roller rinks that they
Yeah.
had from like the 60s and 70s, which is actually my grandfather's business, believe it or not. But I don't think that I have been on roller skates since I was maybe 10. And I woke up this morning and I feel like I get hit by a truck. I had a couple good crashes, but I also think you're using muscles roller skating that you don't typically use. So I'm paying the price for that today. But aside from that,
No.
I'm doing well and I'm very excited about the conversation we're going to have. But before I dive into Victor Mason, who I'm excited to talk to today, Bill, how are you doing?
I'm great, and I can totally relate to that story because when my kids were growing up, I had to make the occasional appearance at a roller skating rink
It was
myself.
fun. It was fun, but I'm a 50-year-old man now. And I'm telling you, you hit that wooden floor.
Feels
And
different, doesn't it?
oh man, yeah, it does. It does. But we're gonna make it through this conversation today, and it's one I'm very excited about. Yeah, as you know, Bill, we've done a bunch of these things, and one of the things that makes this country incredible and unique is the entrepreneurship that is all around you. The
Yes.
ability to come up with an idea and to make a go at it and make successful products or products multiple out of it. And I remember when I was in grad school at NYU, there's a really great professor that I had, and his comment was this: in the United States, what makes us unique is that people, anybody with a garage or any kind of extra space, can come up with really fantastic ideas
Yeah.
that can you can bring to the market, and many of them don't succeed, but many of them do. And I'm excited about today's conversation because I have Victor Mason on, and Victor is, I would call you a serial entrepreneur, Vic. What do you is that an accurate assessment of who you are and what you've done? Because what you've done, which I think is amazing, and we're going to dive into it in a lot more depth. But when we had the good fortune to meet a couple of weeks ago, you're not an engineer by trade, but you've developed a number of products, both from the toy space, and then now we're going into some stuff that might even have law enforcement and military applications. And it's all because of this creativity and the ideas that you've had that you've been able to bring to the market. So with that, and we'll talk about the products and the companies that you run, but first I just wanted to introduce you to my listeners. So Victor, how would you introduce yourself and the history that you've got in entrepreneurship?
I would introduce myself as more of an inventor than an entrepreneur, and a creative, a homespun engineer, you might call. Um, I often find myself thinking about products and why things don't do this and why things haven't made it to the marketplace, and looking around and seeing a need for things like being able to protect people from interactions with law enforcement. One of the hottest topics in the world is injury sustained, and why isn't there a way to gather that data and train people to a new standard and have people not be afraid of contact. And I took something that I had originally developed as a football product and turned it the opposite direction and pivoted into what was really at the top of the agenda. And from there, it's just spun out of control into all kind of different areas the more I talk about it.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to discussing everything that you're doing with PowerZone. But let's start with what you did in the toy business.
Well,
Give
I
give me your
originally started in 1995. I was working on the waterfront in Seattle, and was driving a truck. And I had a dream one night that I was playing on a sound backboard with my kids. And every time they dunked on it, it would say something, let's see one from downtown, great shot. And I woke up in the morning and I was like, what? What's going on? There's no such thing like that. I started looking around, and at the time that I invented Monster Slam and launched it in '95, I my only competition was Nerf. It was the very first miniature basketball backboard with sound or any kind by anybody. Nobody had even created one yet, and it was everybody thought I was nuts when I went to one place to have them cut a backboard and make it to scale, and another place to create a sound. It actually was an analog tape that was playing in it every time you triggered the tongue on the backboard, which of course in production became digitized, but the production sample was actually a recording taken from a tape player. And it was a real prototype, but you couldn't see it because it was covered by a screen. But it got me an NBA license, and we did real well in a 4-year period. We sold about 880,000 units with a 5-man team and a manufacturing rep out of Taiwan. I knew so little about the toy business that I actually used a grocery company to source my manufacturer overseas in Taipei at the time.
Yeah, but how did you take this thing? And this is what's really fascinating to me. So you have a dream, and you're dreaming about this interactive product. You're playing with your kids, and you're slamming it, slam dunks, and saying
Right.
congrats and bring it down, everything else. But a lot of people can have a great idea, but you took this thing and what was the process like to actually get a mock-up version of something that you could then try to go out and sell? Because you got to get from an idea to where the NBA even has any interest. What was that journey like for you?
Well, that's where the part of it got really interesting. Is what I initially did is I rendered up some crude drawings of it. I did what little bit of research that you could do, which pretty much included going around to stores and sporting goods stores and looking around, and all that was available was a hoop that you could put in your driveway, a full size. There were no other options. There were no other products available. And I was like, okay, I might be onto something here. And after I had a working prototype and before I had sale one, I made contact with the NBA and told them that I had come up with something that I thought they would be interested in, and I was looking to license it. Well, they had at the time a guy named Greg Lassner was the director of licensing for the NBA, and I believe he's now at NFL Properties now. And he actually flew out to Seattle after they saw the images and the pictures and everything that I sent them in the letter with an introductory. And I was inquiring about what does it take to get an NBA license, and he had me sign an agreement with an NDA not to show this product, and he wrote a temporary NBA license on the back of a napkin at a keg restaurant in Kirkland, Washington, which turned out to be absolutely hilarious because later on in the event after the product had launched and everything, they had issued me a backboard when Huffy had the rights for all the NBA backboards and Spalding had the rights for all the NBA basketballs that had been grandfathered back to the very beginning of the NBA. So eventually they had to restructure my license to include Huffy in it. And my second generation of backboards for production had my company Sports Concepts and Huffy Sports both on there. And it was further down the road, but it was quite a shock getting a call from the head legal counsel, the president of Huffy Sports, and the NBA commissioner all on a conference call out of the blue one day, telling me, you didn't do anything wrong. It was on our end. We got excited, jumped the gun. This product's great. And, it was just really all just luck, from point A to everything that happened afterwards. I found out years later that I did everything wrong, ordered 300,000 units after I went out and got the funding before I had a sale or even a retailer lined up.
Yeah.
Everything that you were supposed to do wrong, I did because I had no clue how it worked. We never did marketing. It was all done by the NBA. They had it at all the games and set up a deal with FAO Schwartz. And of course, we didn't have social media and online advertising. It was all sporting goods stores and everything. And it was just literally walk in and there'd be orders on the fax machine. That was how we communicated.
Unbelievable. And so what came, obviously it was immediately successful. And the fact that you were able to gauge the NBA rather from day one is amazing. But what came next for you?
We ran the cycle for the product for about 4 to 5 year cycle of the product. Did really, really well with it. Obviously, I didn't continue it again until 2006. and we launched Monster Slam 2, which of course was a terrible time to do it because it was right before the recession. So it wasn't as well received as my first product. And at that point, I dropped out of the basketball product stuff until 2017. And then we did a North Carolina national championship with UNC because I was planning on launching another line like I have now with my legendary backboards.com and our Shaquille O'Neal license with Authentic Brands Group. And that product is currently available and on our website. And I wanted to introduce myself back into the business again before, not knowing who we were going to actually sign as a individual player organization. I wanted to use the college as a platform to kind of come back into the business again.
Well, I'm looking actually on my second screen I've got here. I'm looking at this website right now. It's legendarybackboards.com for anybody
Right.
that is listening. This is a cool product. I have two questions for you. Is first, this one, it's one, if you're slamming, you can shatter the backboard basically, or give the idea that's shattered. But more importantly,
it already is shattered, and
okay.
The next generation of that shattered backboard is in pre-production right now, where it's going to be the first time since my original product that I'm going to be doing something with sound again, and it's going to make the sound of breaking glass. And it comes in a mini jammer version, and it also is going to be in a full-size driveway version. Of which I have in my garage, and they're just incorporating sound into them to elevate things to the next level. My whole thing about being innovative is if I can't be first to market with something and doing something, like, believe it or not, here we are in 2024, and in the last 6 to 8 months, I've released the very first NBA player to have an endorsed product and have their likeness and logo on a backboard product. And it hasn't been done before on a large scale. There's been little attempts here and there with little small companies to do stuff, but this is a major, rollout that's going to be a global launch of a whole bunch of different players that are all waiting their turn for us to get done with our first social media launch and all of the stuff that we started recently with the Shaq line. And
how do you get a guy like Shaq to sign on this? I mean, you're talking about one of the greatest superstars in the entire world, and I'm looking on your website. His name
right.
his logo is all over this thing.
Yeah, it's really kind of an unusually funny story because I know him personally and I've known him for a break. I was in the exotic car business in Scottsdale, so I had known him for a long time, did a lot of business, and one of the first things I knew is that he doesn't like his friends to approach him with ideas about anything having to do with any kind of business. He would rather that you go through who his intermediaries are. And so I found out that he had partnered with Authentic Brands Group, contacted them, and I started the process. He didn't find out until much later in the process that it was me. And I did that intentionally because I think I would feel the same way if all your buddies are trying to figure out how to, capitalize off of your likeness and that it would be an awkward kind of a situation. So dealing with the big companies isn't as much fun. The NBA was a different story. They do everything for you, but there's challenges with every different licensing company. I'm excited about, as much as I'm excited about this product, I'm more excited about the other ones that are coming in the where players that haven't seen a lot of exposure and didn't get to make the kind of money that have a lot of popularity and have markets in different regions and stuff like that in Los Angeles and Boston and all of these guys, that are fan favorites that people are going to go out and buy for their grandkids. And those are the ones I'm excited about in addition to this product and the lines that will be coming off of it. And be a lot easier process than having to jump through a lot of the hoops that you deal to when you deal with a big licensing company. It can be very intense, all the requirements and stuff like that. It isn't for even when someone is experienced with it, there's always still surprises and a learning curve, because the things have changed now. You know, you have to go out and not just create the product, but you have to create the market and advertising and ad space for it and everything. Where it used to be in the old days that they would help you as much as possible. Like the NBA would shoot your balls out into the crowd with $5 off, and you go to the gift shop and they would have NBA players come to all the FAO Schwartz stores and sign backboards and all over the country and bend over backwards to generate sales. Now you really have to bust your butt, and they make it a little harder for entrepreneurs, you know, to go out and do stuff, even though you're paying the same amount or more in advanced royalties on the product.
Now, I want to take, and again, it's amazing because you've got this product, which is now, launched on your website, but is going to be launching in even a greater capacity.
Right.
And then I want to make sure we spend plenty of time talking about your other product, which is what you and I first started talking about in terms of these haptic
Right.
suits. Before we dig into that, though, so you made the turn into exotic cars after doing the original.
Yeah, I went into the exotic car business just because I was burned out on the toy business, and did that until the economy crashed, and then got out of that. And that was a lot of fun. Met a lot of people, a lot of famous people, a lot of just all over the country. I advertised in DuPont Registry and had a really good relationship with the DuPont family. So being one of the very few African American exotic car guys in the country, they were letting all their athlete friends know, and everybody was coming, and from every direction that you can imagine. It got to the point where I was like, really? Who is this on the phone? It's like you're thinking somebody's pulling your leg. No, really, it's me. I'm calling about that car on your website that I saw on DuPont Registry, blah, blah, blah. It's just, it was just a lot of fun. I still miss it. I have some guys trying to drag me back into it right now. And I don't have time for it, because now for the first time, I'm getting ready to launch a global line with PowerZone that is a global application that is just has unlimited, opportunities and markets. Yeah.
Let's go into PowerZone now, because this is something that is, I think, totally unique, and that it just looked, from the outside looking in, to put this thing together, you would think that you would need to have an engineering background to make this thing happen. But before, and you're kind of sent me a video, which we're going to show here in a second, but give me the genesis of what is PowerZone. And you came up with the backboard because you had a dream, but how did this come into your consciousness?
This came into my consciousness when I started noticing the amount of injuries and all of the stuff that's been going on with concussion protocol. I had originally developed this product as something that I was going to take to the NFL to make players safer and to really minimize the amount of injuries that were happening on the field. If we couldn't minimize them, then we could at least create a standard of measurement of data by creating sensors that gather the impact data during live play, practice, and be able to use that data that is collected for the medical side of it and for the equipment side. If you can collect all of the impact data, you can regenerate a whole new generation of equipment that meets a standard that we now know what was immeasurable is now measurable. And I had to figure out how to make that happen. So I developed a relationship with the #1 sensor company in the world. And it literally took us 6 to 8 years to come up with a working model of something. Now, we went directly to the NFL with this product. And because they're still negotiating the players' lawsuit with the Players Association, they weren't able to engage with it. They acknowledged it. And at that point, I decided to have a pivot and decide to look at what else is hot button. It's all about trying to create things that make life easier and better and safer for people. And from that, I went into my IMS Go and product that I sent you a video clip of. And everything else just kind of continues to develop. I have a various bunch of other product we'll talk about after that.
Well,
So if you want,
yeah, you were kind of sending me this video. So let's actually, this will be the first time that Bill and I have done this on the podcast, but we're gonna watch this video together. It's about a minute and a half long. And then I got a ton of questions for you, but
okay,
we'll click into this video right now and take a look and go from there.
all right. I don't think the sound is on.
Is that sound? Editing team is pause for a second. Is that sound not coming across to you, Victor?
No, I can't hear it. Can you?
I can hear it, but it's coming through mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine as long as you can hear it. That's all that matters.
Okay. If we'll figure out, I will send this video in to Disha, and what we might be able to do is when I do the pause, do you think, Bill, and then you just pop the video in?
Yeah, exactly. Send this to Disha
Okay.
and tell her it starts about 20 minutes into the recording.
Okay.
Is your time marker.
Okay,
And then you can pick this conversation up. If she can edit, I'll say edit this out to where you pick it up, and she will have the in and out point, so she'll know what to do from there.
So editing team, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to restart just so we can see it, and then obviously because it might impact conversation we have after that. But Victor, we'll get this edited in, then we'll pop back into it. So editing team, we're going to start right now. I'm going to play it. You guys will insert the real video. All right, you guys ready?
Okay.
All right. So obviously, we're talking about a pretty impressive piece of engineering here, and as an aside, Victor, you ever read the book or seen the movie Ready Player One?
No, but I've had someone ask me about that, um, and I haven't, but I'm going to check into it and see how it relates. Definitely, it's been mentioned to me. This is the second time.
It's set in the future, and basically these people are having very immersive experiences, but they're wearing these full haptic suits, where all that data from the external for the virtual world's being transmitted onto them, and vice versa. But this,
Right.
to me, initially, so you came up with this idea because you're thinking obviously of traumatic injuries that people are having on the playing field, whether it's concussions, whether it's the amount of the sheer force that they're getting if they're getting
Tissue
hit.
damage and organ damage from being hit in the heart, and things like we saw last season with the Buffalo Bills player, all of that stuff like that. If he'd have been wearing our equipment, we would have been able to collect that data to re-engineer a whole new generation of equipment that could protect players to a standard that is right now immeasurable. And that's why I came up with the IMS Go product, because one of the biggest things is that people are pulling their kids out of contact sports
Yeah.
because they're afraid of them being injured. And if you can create something like IMS Go, it has universal applications. It could be used technically for a military, law enforcement, any kind of real life situation where you live want to have actual sensors that are attached by Velcro and attached to your equipment that you're wearing. And if something happens, our other products are really far advanced beyond what IMS Go is, which is basically more of a consumer product that'll be available on the market. And that's in the final stages of production and being ready to go to production. But it's really to protect parents. And whether your kids play soccer, girls soccer is #1 in concussions in the world. And all of the other contact sports follow accordingly. Of course, soccer is the #1 sport in the world, which is why. But you know, we've done a number of studies and worked with TGen and a whole bunch of different people gathering research of what are the concerns here and how do I address them. And then I had to go back and start from the beginning on how can I make a product if I can't get this particular group to focus on something, because in the event that they have legal concerns that it could cause them problems down the road, that they knew of technology that was there and they didn't try to protect the players, you know, then I'm going to go directly to the source of the people and the public and create a product that you can just go buy off the shelf. And just like when you were roller skating with your kids last
Used a
night,
suit yesterday.
you could have had, you don't
Yeah.
even need a suit. You can literally take it and put an adhesive Velcro and sensors and attach it all over. And you guys could have went ahead and went full roller derby, you know,
Yeah.
knowing that if something really traumatic happened, if your wife or somebody's sitting there with an iPad or an iPhone or any kind of a device that you can gather, and if you see something, you know, a biometric event, it measures pounds of force on one side of the screen, and the other side it has the squiggly lines that is the biometric measuring, and it literally tells you how many pounds of pressure was initiated at the point of contact and what part to go look at that it was that it went to. So it's all integrated technology and software that communicates by Bluetooth with the sensors that are attached to all their equipment, whether ice hockey, martial arts, volleyball. You know, people's kids get hurt in every kind of sport where you're coming in contact with somebody else. You know, it's like we were talking about a sport like rugby where they don't even wear any pads. There's a lot of stuff that can be learned from things like that by having something that's off the shelf that you can buy. You download the software when you buy it and put in your code that's on the back of it and log in as a user and put in your height, weight, stats, and all of that stuff in there. And that data is very important because it can be used for the medical community to be able to make determinations as to what can we do to be prepared and understand how to prevent this in the future.
Yeah, one of the amazing things I think about your technology is in many cases people develop this amazing, great tech, and there ends up being applications for it that were not originally envisioned, and that is definitely the case in terms of what you've done here. So this is something that started, for parents or for athletes thinking about how they can get the data to see what's really hurting them and what's not. But now there are in a lot of other applications to this that have come on your radar screen. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Yes. Our #1 thing is, protecting the public and protecting law enforcement from coming in contact with the public while they're doing their job. Both things are really a 50-50 issue. People are afraid of law enforcement. So I developed a suit that they can use in academy training called a force measurement suit. And they'll be able to go through training while they're going through the police academy and brought back in off the street and looks like a sweatsuit, but it's made from a sensor grabbing type of fabric that was made for this purpose and isn't available anywhere, which is the only reason I can talk about it but not show it. But it again has Bluetooth capability and has the ability to gather all of the use of force that's applied against someone, so that law enforcement can be trained to what is the proper amount of force that you need to use to apprehend a child, a woman, a teenager, a small man, a medium-sized man, whatever it is. They can go back and be retrained to a standard to minimize the amount of injuries, because right now there's really only one way that they've been trained on how to apprehend someone. And on the flip side is that law enforcement often is injured because of people being afraid and fighting back and resisting arrest and so forth. And we need to be able to collect all of that impact data so that we can show that these guys aren't all bullies and out here beating up on people, that some of the stuff is fear or flight type of stuff and reactions, or just bad guys trying to inflict damage on them. And it gives them a way to be able to have some protection for themselves when you're sitting in court and someone says, this guy beat the crap out of me while he was arresting me. Well, we can say we have here all of the biometric and graphical data showing how much force you were using while resisting arrest. And there's a SIM card attached to it and has Bluetooth capabilities, so they're recording in live time. And there's lots of other things that we're going to be able to do that I won't get into, but all of these things have military applications to special forces, soldiers, Air Force, every branch of the military has an application and a use for all of these various different products that have gone into things that I never imagined. And that's where things are starting to go now. Construction everywhere. That there's a need to be able to gather this data so that you can protect people, and also at the same time they can protect themselves from false claims and other things like that, because all of this information is able to be grabbed while they're in the course of doing their work.
Yeah, think about if you're working in a warehouse and
Yeah.
and the ability to really determine exactly what happened. Maybe the shoulder injury didn't occur at the warehouse. Maybe it happened on a Friday night after too many shots of whiskey or something. On the flip side
Yeah.
is maybe those warehouse conditions were truly unsafe, and there's a lot of data across multiple employees that show that's the case. I mean, it's
Right.
pretty
Well,
amazing
there's a
stuff.
lot of fraud that goes on with, in the workplace and on construction sites and all that. And all we're going to be doing is taking standard issue military construction safety equipment, law enforcement, and attaching our technology to it, and then setting up the systems that are able to grab the information from them. It seems simple until you realize you're the first one to do it. And we of course are very careful with our IP and everything. I'm not too worried about it because there's really not anybody. It took the number one company in the world 68 years to come up with a finished product. So, it's just it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, is that a lot of people go out and create and invent stuff. Sometimes they're successful and get things to market. And that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to spend some time talking about on here, is that
Please, yeah.
I know you have a really large relationship with the financial community and all of that type of stuff. And, I'm not unique. There's a lot of people that have ideas that are going to blossom into global brand and a global line of products. And I feel like at some point in time that we should use our networks, from having the manufacturing capabilities to having the financial backing, to make these kind of things easier. Even when you're very experienced, when you're bringing something new to market, it can be a very difficult operation. I've had to self-finance my way all the way through, because it's just you know, there's got to be some type of a consortium that's a real deal thing, not like some of the stuff you see on television where they have commercials saying, if you have a great idea, contact this company and we'll help you get your product to market. You know, they don't explain to you that they give you an advance on whatever money you have spent in developing your product, and then they negotiate you down to a percentage, and then they go sell your product to a big giant company and make a lot of money. And that's 100% how those companies work. I personally never did business with any of them, but I know a lot of people who have, and were very disillusioned and disappointed with the results of it. But there's enough private money out there that people, one of the things I'd like to do is be able to set up a consortium and a judging panel that sits back and looks at things and go, you know, this might be the next PowerZone. This might be the next this might be the next that. I don't have any illusions at all that there's creativity out there and that people who don't have anywhere to take things, and we don't know what we could be missing out on, that not even from just a financial perspective, but the fact that making the world a safer place for everybody and for our grandkids, and, you know, and ongoing and perpetual, you know.
What would that, because you know, you are, as you said, I introduced you as an entrepreneur, and you said you're more of an inventor. And so you're looking at the world through a lens that maybe not everyone else is not. What would the ecosystem that you're envisioning look like?
Well, it would look like a place where you would be able to submit products that you've designed, have a signed NDA, whatever, that we're not going to share this with you, and to be able to tell people, good or bad, what we think of what they have, and if they have something good, that we have an audience that we can go to find backing for these kind of things, and use our contacts in the manufacturing world to find out about getting it into production and getting it into market, so that you first have to go out, prove your product, get it on the market, sell it, and wait for the big boys to come. Like my company, there's no doubt with the amount of data that we're going to be gathering and dealing with, you know, all of the government entities, agencies, DOD, everybody else, they're all going to be coming. They're already, you know, asking questions, and, you know, it's going to be some big giant company that comes and will buy out probably a majority of the company, and I'll stay on to continue the development of product. And I have no problem with that. It's not about control. It's about being able to get something to a global audience and get it everywhere that it needs to be. And there's only so much you can do as a small business, as opposed to a giant corporation getting it spread throughout the whole, you know, all the foreign countries and all of our NATO countries and everywhere else that we want to share, you know, and give ourselves any kind of an advantage. And, you know, look at all the millions of dollars that they have trained in all these special forces soldiers, and now being able to monitor them in real life time, and to be able to call in, you know, when they've sustained an injury, and you're aware of it because it spikes on the software, and let someone know at a center that's monitoring all this. It's all game changing technology, and I know that there's only so far that I can take it without somebody really being able to take it and blow it up, but still be engaged and lead them to where I'm trying to go. And I want to be able to do the same thing and have something set up for that people feel safe and comfortable that they can bring something to, and we help them get to market.
You know, and the applications in terms of what you're talking about are massive. I mean, because I think the latest defense budget, and we're not even talking about local law enforcement agencies and state agencies. The defense budget is about $870 billion now, just the United
It's
States.
just insane, and none of this technology exists in that space. They've been talking about their next generation, you know, equipment and next generation soldiers and Android stuff and all this type of stuff that's supposed to happen that we haven't seen. And we're, you know, I don't know how long it'll be before we see that kind of stuff. But the first thing is that the frontline guys and our special forces guys that have millions of dollars of training have to be protected, and we have to be able to really evaluate them in real life time and know, you know, what's going on with them at all times and be able to initiate help before someone has a chance to reach out, you know, and reach out and bring them in, you know. And it really transfers from the front lines to the pilots to every aspect of all of it. And once they know about it, there's no doubt. This is part of the reason why I'm so receptive to being a partner with a big company, because there's just no way you could just reach globally with that. We have a lot of allies that they're going to want to share this technology with, and I'm fully set this thing up, being prepared for that to come along.
And how quick do you think the uptake on this technology is going to be? Not only just for the military applications, but the law enforcement applications, maybe even consumer applications. Do you think it's going to happen very quickly now?
Oh yeah, we actually have working samples and demos and are ready to go, and ready to go. I'm not ready to show them online, but that's why I had an animated video made to be able to explain just the very beginning of what the consumer product is, which technically could be used for just about anything, because there isn't anything else out there. And it wouldn't be easy for anyone to recreate.
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned it just in terms of to develop a fabric that can transmit this data is we have not seen that out in the marketplace at this point yet.
It's actually a pressure mapping fabric, and it grabs all of the, literally, it shows your hand grabbing onto where it is and how hard you're squeezing, and it shows it in two different forms of measuring, and then it records it in real backup time on a SIM card that's attached to the back of the suit that you wear, where the Bluetooth is. And it's just, it took them 6 to 8 years to work out all the bugs on this for a reason.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. I can imagine.
When I first went to them, I was like, they were like, "What?"
Yeah.
I go, "Yeah, I needed to do this, this, and this." And they go, "Well, we don't have anything like that." And I go, "Well, if anybody already had something like this, I wouldn't be asking you to do it."
Yeah.
So,
well, I think one of the things that's so inspiring about our conversation is that you have these ideas, but unlike many that have great ideas, you actually have then taken proactive steps and taken a lot of action to see them into fruition and finding the people that can help you along that path. And so along those lines, what would you say to anyone listening who might be, to your point, a young inventor or an old inventor, or someone that has a great idea that they know is not out there, but say, yeah, no one's doing it, and I can't possibly put together the game plan to do this. What would your advice be to someone like that?
well, the first thing to do would be to protect it, what you have, by filing your, utility patents and everything, and then start looking at what's the closest to it and finding out who you have to go to and getting them locked in, having an NDA always to protect yourself. I mean, patents and all of that stuff are important, but they're more important if your intention is to sell to a bigger company, because they have 3 or 4 floors of legal people, and they're going to go after anybody that tries to come along to copy whatever you're trying to do. The idea is to make something really hard for someone else to duplicate and to make it really genuinely innovative. I won't do anything unless I'm first to market, because I believe and I understand that first to market always wins and is the legitimate product, no matter what somebody else is able to take and figure out later on down the road. That's for the legal people once you become part of a bigger organization to deal with. And that's one of the reasons why I find it so appealing, is the fact that they'll be the ones that go after everybody else. There's companies that make a living off of duplicating other things that people create, and changing it 30%, filing their own patent, calling it something else. I know how the game works, and people that are out there that are, well, people like myself that are innovative creators and all of that, you need to be aware of the process of thinking further along down the road as to if this thing is to take off, and where is the place to go? A lot of the things that people think are real ways to go, like angel funding and all of that stuff, don't really exist anymore. When I first started, it was a very simple. I think, and within a month, I raised a few $1 million with a handful of people. That it's not like that anymore. People, even no matter how great of an idea you have, it's very hard to get people to part with money. So you usually end up backing it yourself with friends and family, and doing and getting something out. And it really shouldn't be like that. There should be some kind of a place that something can go to that's across the board, where I can find out now if this is what I think it is, or if it's not, because I'll get an honest answer, and they'll work as a team together to collaborate. And that's something that, we've already talked about, a company that you have a relationship with that I want to work with. And, we obviously won't mention them on here, but, there's a lot of stuff out here that all of these people moving in the same space. And it's a matter of bringing things together and getting product out there. That's the big thing.
Well, Victor, I got to thank you so much for your time, because I know you're busy doing a ton of stuff. And to me, I love these conversations because, to me, the American dream is the ability to go out, come up with an idea, find a market for it. Sometimes it succeeds, sometimes you fail, but it's people like yourself that are inventing things, coming up with new ideas. That's what's moving the ball of humanity forward. It's people that are looking at the world and saying, okay, it exists this way today, but it could exist this way. And it's awesome what you're doing, and thanks for taking the time to talk to me. Now, to anybody that wants to know more about you or your products, how do they learn more about PowerZone, or Legendary Backboards, or any of the different things that you're doing?
Yes, you can go to PowerZone. PowerZoneGroup.com is our website, and legendarybackboards.com. And my email is vic@powerzonegroup.com. And I can be reached there. And that's pretty much it. I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing more stuff as I launch new products, and as we collaborate and you make introductions to the people we've talked about, that I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing further things in the future, and hopefully have some discussion about bringing the investment community together with other people and these big companies to really ferret out and find. So I have no illusions that there are a lot of other people out here that have the capability of doing the same thing. We just have to make it easier for them to get to market.
Absolutely.
That is a fascinating conversation. And while I was listening to it, guys, I'm a big English Premier League soccer fan. And I see data all the time from what soccer players wear. They have monitors now that measure their heart rate, measure their distance, measure their speed. And I'm thinking, PowerZone takes this data to a whole new, different level, and it's going to be fascinating to see the impact, not just on sports, but on everything else that you talked about, Victor. And the other thing that occurred to me was something that was said to me by a Japanese investment banker many, many years ago. And we were talking about carbon fibers. And he said, Americans are interesting people. He said they look at something like carbon fibers and they think, oh, I know what we can do with this. We can build a fighter jet. He said, we look at this and think, you know what we could do with this? We could make golf clubs and tennis rackets.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, Victor, you actually tapped into that's the spirit of exactly that thought, because what you've created are products that come at it from, if you will, the golf club or the tennis aspect of it. It's a simple application that people understand, that then leads to, or potentially leads to, much, much bigger kinds of things. So congratulations. Really, I'm impressed, as I'm sure listeners are.
Well, this is just the beginning. We have a lot of products, and, there's going to be a lot of uses and applications that there already has been conversations for things that I had never considered. And it's going to continue. They're going to find all kinds of different other applications. And that's part of the process, is taking something and having it expand into every part of, the world of uses that make people safer. And that's really what this is all about.
Yeah, well, I wish you much success going forward. As for you, Brent, now we know how to get old Victor and look at his products and get excited about what might be in the pipeline. How do people who are listening to this get a hold of you if they want to have an extended conversation with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Social media, very active on LinkedIn. So if you just search me on LinkedIn, where we put stuff up there almost probably 4 or 5 times a week, so pretty frequently. Website smartmoneysimplified.com, and probably by the time we launch this podcast, we have some big news happening on the personal front. We're rebranding, merging with another team, going independent RIA. So we will be tws.finance will be the main website. The numbers again the same, 602-255-0555. Either myself or Andy or Kayla or Susan will pick up the phone, and on our website again you find pretty much every conceivable way to contact me. But if this was interesting to anybody, I would love to continue the conversation, and this is a good one today. So Victor, thank you. Bill, always it's a pleasure sitting down with you as well.
No, it is
Yes.
great, and it's great, and yeah, there are some very exciting times happening with Smart Money Simplified and Brent. So stay tuned.
All right.
There's good stuff happening. Victor, I wish you well. Congratulations to you and your future success. As for those of you who are listening to this podcast for the first time and are not yet subscribers, this is easy. Just hit the follow button. Then you're a subscriber. That way you will be notified every time Brent drops a new episode of his podcast, and I am sure you don't want to miss any of them. Until next time, I'm Bill Tucker. On behalf of Brent and everybody at TWS, thank you so much for listening today. And remember, you have a choice. You can go out today and make it a great day. Or not. It's up to you. Until next time, thanks for listening.